This is a 3-session series conducted by GDSC. And what we are planning to do in the first 2 sessions is basically build a simple portfolio for you guys. This is the portfolio. We're going to be building this together using VS Code. Okay, so the 3 sessions that we're conducting, they're going to cover the whole of the front end as well as the back end. So we're going to be teaching you guys HTML, CSS, as well as JavaScript. So web page that you just saw, this is basically going to be completed in the first 2 sessions. We're going to use HTML and CSS for this. So with that being said, let's just start. So the very basic tool which we are going to use to build any web page or website is HTML. And by the way, I'm Devansh. I'm from second year AI. Okay, so web development. I hope all of you have heard what web development is actually. So web development is the work involved in developing a website for the internet or intranet. So basically, in the internet, everything is in the form of web pages and websites connected to each other in the form of a graph. And basically, there are three categories of this: front end, back end, and full stack. So front end is basically what you see in a website. Back end is how it communicates with the server and everything. Full stack basically comprises of both the front end as well as the back end. And here there's one more picture which tells us that. So front end basically focuses on layout, animation, content, organizing, navigation, graphics, etc. And the languages used here is JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And in the backend, it focuses more on building code, debugging, database management, and so on. And the programming languages used there are Python, Java, and Node.js. Okay, so for the people who already have VS Code, you do need to download this extension, Live Server. So I'll just show you how it looks like. You just go on to extensions. So you just type Live Server. And the first thing that comes up. So just install this. Okay. Now, while this continues, let's just continue more about HTML. So HTML is the language in which most websites are written, as I just told you guys. It is used to create pages and make them functional. Each retrieval unit is known as a web page from the World Wide Web. Such pages frequently contain hypertext links that allow related pages to be retrieved. So this is basically how the internet works. Every page is connected to the other with the help of a link. And that is also how pages are sorted in Google and other search engines. So let's just talk about history of HTML. HTML was first created by Tim Berners-Lee and Robert Taylor and others starting in 1989. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So markup language is basically a very common form of language. Basically, it's a prototype of text used in internet. So basically, you can use certain quotations and marks, and it'll be seen in the internet in a certain type of way. Markup language is a way that computer speaks to each other to control how text is processed and presented. So as I just told you, HTML uses two basic things: tags, attributes. So this is the basic of HTML. So it has tags, and tag basically the tags as well as the content is known as an element in HTML. So we are going to be working with tags and elements in HTML. That's our basic outlook. And now this is the space structure of a normal HTML document. The very first line which you see is doc type HTML. This basically confirms the version of HTML. So HTML5 version has this declaration which just tells us that yes, this is a HTML5 document. And then comes the HTML root element. So as you can see here, it's called an element as it contains tag and all the content within it. Now, a tag can contain content as well as other tags within it. So as you can see, the HTML tag contains head, body. Now, head and body are the child tags of HTML tag. And head, these are basic two tags which are inside HTML. And yeah, then you can put many other tags inside head and body themselves. So head is used to contain page HTML metadata. So metadata basically means the data about how everything is supposed to be seen, which I'll show you as we get to the coding part, as well as the page title. So basically, this is what is seen in the title bar. That is the title tag. H2, H1, H6, basically these are heading tags. As you all would know, H1 is the biggest and H6 is the smallest. And heading tags are also one way in which Google basically connects connects what do you say web pages together. So H1 being the most important link and H6 being the least important link. And P is for paragraph. Now moving on, this is just a table which contains more of the tags, which will get into the coding part. And now let's start building a portfolio. So a portfolio is basically a website. It is a unique way to showcase your work and let others know about yourself. It's an evergreen platform for your projects, case studies, information about you. In addition, it's one of the best ways to express your personality, experience, and capabilities. So portfolio is basically, I can say, a sort of a mini resume where you tell about your projects and what qualifications you have. So yeah, this is what we're going to build here. So let's just start coding. And before we start coding, I'll just teach you guys about some of the basic Emmet abbreviations that we use. Emmet abbreviations are basically keyboard shortcuts that we use while coding in HTML. So have you guys, okay, sorry, let's just start by creating a file. So do you guys know how to create a file in Visual Studio Code? Okay. Okay, so for those of you who don't, let's just start by doing that. So I go to desktop, I click on new, and I click on a folder. So basically you just create a new folder on your desktop, C drive, anywhere you want. And I just name it GDSC1. Okay, so I've just named it GDSC1. Just a random folder in any directory you want. Okay. Cool. Then you just go to your, then you just open your VS Code and go to File, Open Folder, and just click on it, GDSC1. Here, now you will see in VS Code that all your, the subfolder in which you're working would be seen here on the left side corner. And you can just create a new file and call it index.html. Now you might be wondering why we name every root file in HTML as index.html. Index is basically a taken name which a web server when sees, it knows that this is the root page which it has to display first. If I name it anything else, web server doesn't really know what the root node is. So that's why we name it index.html. Now starting on with the Emmet abbreviations, the first one being exclamation mark or okay. So the first Emmet abbreviation is basically exclamation mark. That's all. And as you press enter, this gives you a basic boilerplate of an HTML document. So our first Emmet abbreviation was just an exclamation point and enter. Cool. Okay, so now let's just talk about the head tag that we saw. So as I told you, it contains metadata about the web page that we're going to use. So UTF-8 is basically a character encoding. So basically the characters that you see in a web page, how they are stored in the backend, UTF-8 is a type of protocol to store it. And as you can see, XUA compatible content IEdge. This is basically for old Microsoft servers to identify it. And then you can see initial scale here. This is just how the web page is seen initially, the scale of it when you open it. Okay, so that would be the head tag. Now let's just talk about some of the other tags that we use commonly. So the most common being H1 tag or the heading tag. So in VS Code, you just type H1 and press enter, and it already writes the tags for you. Now, if you're wondering, you can also write HTML in normal Notepad and Notepad++. But I actually recommend you guys using VS Code because it's much more easier and faster this way. And also a lot of professionals use VS Code for web development. And you can VS Code is also very flexible. You can use it for running Java, C, Python as well too. Okay, cool. So now the H1 tag, as you all know, you can just type anything here, suppose hello world. And the extension that you guys have downloaded, I hope you have downloaded the live server. Is it installed? Okay, so if you have installed live server correctly, if you do right click, you will see an option to open it with live server. Just click it once. And here you can see this is your basically very first web page which says hello world. And as you can see here, a very temporary IP is assigned to this web page. This is done with the help of the live server extension that we just downloaded. Okay. So now let's talk about other tags. Now, as you would know, HTML basically is case insensitive. So that means if you write tags in capital as well as small, they do work all the same. And the second thing is spaces in HTML don't really count. So suppose I write hello world, but I give like these many spaces and I just save it. It won't show me any change. It'll just it will just be hello world still. So how do you add this change over here of these many spaces? And also, like, suppose you enter it into a new line, hello world, and if you save it again and run it with the live server, you actually don't need to run it with the live server every time. The live server extension refreshes the page as you make changes and save it. So as you can see, hello world is still in one line. It's not in a new line. So how do you make these changes? You just add a BR tag, which stands for break. So what BR tag does is it breaks the line and puts the content after it in the next line. So I'll just save it and show you guys. So as you can see now, hello is in one line and world comes in the second line. But now, like, the issue comes with when we have many spaces in between. So like 5 spaces. I just showed you guys this won't work. So what tag you can use here is PRE. PRE tag helps you to predefine how your text looks like in a web page. I'll just save it and show you guys. So now you can see the spacing that I had given inside the pre tag. It's exactly the spacing that you see here. Okay. Okay, so I'll also touch a basic of CSS over here. Now there are two identities called ID as well as a class. You guys have your index.html document, everyone? Okay. Okay, cool. So now how do you write a class? Basically, for a class, you just put a dot and class name. So class name can be suppose class 1 and you press enter. So emit abbreviations because of that. Our VS Code creates a class on its own. Now, if you want to create an ID, so for that, what you do is just write hashtag and the name of your ID. So like suppose ID1. So now this creates an ID division for you guys. So now that we know the basic of how HTML works and what the basic tags do, we'll move on to now coding for the actual portfolio. Okay, so one more trick which you guys should know about is actually, suppose you write, this is a command lorem 30. So lorem 30 basically writes 30 randomly generated words. So this is also a command used by a lot of developers to just fill up space and see how things look. So if I write lorem 30 and press enter, it generates 30 random words and puts it in line. So this is also a nice command. So you can write lorem 25, lorem 5, lorem 7, anything. So it just generates those many words and puts it. So this is basically a filler. And you would see we had used a filler here too. So yeah, as you can see, we have used the same lorem over here. So the web page that we're going to be building, it basically has a middle section about me, and you guys can tell about your skills. So you can put Java, CSS, Python, or even about your projects. You can write about yourself, and then a footer in which you can link your profiles. So that's a very good way of showcasing your skill. So now let's begin. Okay, so we'll start with the actual part of the portfolio now. So all of you can basically clear whatever we had just done before and start by giving the exclamation point emit abbreviation. So start with the boilerplate now. Now let's start with the basic document. Okay. So now what we have here is, as you can see, there is also a style tag inside of our head tag, which you will see. So style basically is CSS part, so we won't touch this as of now. We'll just go from head to the body part right now. So now, as you can see, there's a division ID called header. So let's just start by creating an ID called header. So how do we create IDs in VS Code? Hashtag header and press enter. So that just created a header for us. So header is essentially a box where we'll place our content and pictures too. So do we have a header? Okay. So next, now we move on to a container, a class called container. So why we are using all this also, I'll tell you as we do it. Now, how do you add pictures? How do you add pictures in your HTML document? Use a tag called a. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so how do you add pictures in your document in HTML? You basically use a tag. So you just press A and enter. And as you can see, href. Now, href can hold two types of links, an absolute path, and a relative path. So what's the relative path first? So I'll just create a new HTML document called suppose second.html here. And I'll just, write a normal boilerplate for it. And inside the body, I'll just write, this is the second page. Okay. Now, over here in my href, I can just give name of the second file that I just created over here, second.html, and with the text, which suppose tells click me. And I save it and I run this now. So as you can see, a click me hyperlink has just been created. And as I click this, it goes to the second.html page. As you can see, second.html. So yeah, this is called a relative path. And what a relative path basically means, from this point, where do I go next? And now what is an absolute path? An absolute path would be basically if you Google something like images and just click on a random image. Just open it here. So you just copy the image address of a random image that you see online. And you can just place it in another href. And that image should basically come in there too. Oh, sorry. No. Yeah. No. So I'm sorry, guys. It's actually the img tag in which the images come. And alt is basically if an image doesn't load, what text should be seen there. So an img tag, what all you have to do is just type img and press enter, and the tag is created. So yeah, but that doesn't take away from the thing that this is an absolute path. So absolute path means from the very starting, where to get the image from. And a relative path is basically from this point, where do I go next? So as you can see, my image has come over here. So that would be about the image tag and any tag as well. Okay. So now let's continue. As you can see over here, image.src, mylogo.jpg. So this is an image tag which I've used to put my logo here. And what my logo is basically the logo that you can see over here. You can put any image you like, or if you don't want to, then sure, it's your wish. So that goes there. And basically, guys, how you add, you can also install images, you can download images and also put them in the same folder that you have just created. So as I had created GDSC1 folder, here I can save images and then I can just put the name of the images and they will be seen here. So let's just download an image and let me show you guys. Let's just download some of the image. Save image as. So I have saved the image in that folder. Second. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, the image is here. So as I've saved the image, you can see pic1.jpg is automatically seen in your VS Code. So this is the image. So now with the help of an image tag, I can just add this image too. Pic1 and alt is the text which would come if it suppose didn't load. So image not found or anything. So yeah, as you can see, image not found is coming over here. So it could be due to many reasons. One could be because of the size or even due to some encoding error. Just check this once here. So I just given the wrong name apparently. So yeah, that's how it works. The image tags you guys can see. Okay, it's 418. So now we are using a NAV tag here, which basically stands for navigation. So I'll just show you the portfolio once. So these three, as you see, are the navigation links. So as you click on them, it takes you to a separate part of this web page. So if I click on about, I come to about me like that. So for that, you use a navigation tag. Cool. So now inside the navigation tab, I've used mylogo.jpg. Again, I told you guys what that is. And now UL basically stands for unordered list. So these three are basically a list which I've created. It's an unordered list. So that's why we are using the UL tag here. And LI stands for list item. So every item in an unordered list would be in this form. So yeah, you guys can just write this down too. Second. So this is the UL tag, and there are three list items, as you can see. And the href basically refers to the ID in which it will go to once you click it. So if you click about, you go to the section ID, and section ID is this one. And if you click on contact, you go to the footer ID, and so on. So once you download the image, you just need to write the name of the image. So the pick one, basically, it's in my folder where I have index.html, second.html, basically these files, which you can see. So you just need to save the picture in that folder, and you can just write the name of the picture .jpg in an image tag, and that image will be seen. So yeah, these are used to basically reference certain elements to give them their properties. So we'll continue this in the CSS session, but basically classes and IDs are used to reference certain boxes, which you can think of. So you can divide this whole thing into separate boxes, and every box is given different property. So that's how CSS works, which will be a continuation for tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, guys.